The serve is the most valuable ally you can have in tennis. And believe me, it's worth the effort to go out and practice long and hard to get a good serve. To help us with this tough shot, let's bring in a man who was ranked #1 in the United States mainly due to his serve, Charlie Pasarell.
It has been said that the serve is the most important stroke in the game, and I happen to believe that. It is the most important stroke in the game. It is how you begin every point. If you can have a good serve and begin the point with a big, hard, well-placed serve, you're going to have an advantage in that point. You're going to start it off as a winner. There are 4 fundamentals to every stroke in the game of tennis. The first fundamental is the grip. If you're having trouble with your serve, I recommend that you begin with the forehand grip. The reason for that is simply you'll make better contact with the ball with a forehand grip. The finger position should be 3 fingers, then the thumb, and then the trigger finger or the forefinger should be spread out over the racket a little more. So if you're a beginner, I recommend that you start with the forehand grip. Also, if you're having troubles with your serve, go more towards the forehand grip. As you progress, and it will happen gradually, you can then start moving to a more of a continental or even to a backhand grip position. This will allow you to impart more spin into the ball. Serving is similar to throwing a ball. The motion is very much the same. The body and weight transfer is very much the same. Just remember that the front foot has to be planted down and you push off that front foot. It's your anchor foot. This gives you better rhythm, better balance, more control. The second fundamental is balance. First, let's talk about how should you place your feet in the court. Well, you want to be sideways in relation to the net. At the same time, you want to put your feet in such a position so that if you were to lay your racket in your toes, that racket will be pointing at that service box that you're serving to. So this will give you the basic feet positioning in the serve. Balance is perhaps the most overlooked part of the serve or any stroke. And to me, it's a very important part because if you can control your body, then you can control the racket. And if you can control the body and the racket, then you can control the ball. By the time you make contact with the ball, practically all of your weight, 99% of your weight, should be in the front foot, in your anchor foot. As a matter of fact, even 100% of your weight can be in your front foot because you're trying to move forward into the court or forward into the ball. You're trying to transfer all of your weight. One thing that I must warn you is that if you step forward into the court before you've made contact with the ball, you have lost all the value of the proper transfer of weight. It's a very common mistake for people to step into the court before they've made contact with the ball. So you do not want to step forward into the court until after you've completed your swing. If you're a beginner, a good method to try to develop the proper weight transfer and balance is to try to hit a serve without stepping across with your rear foot as you complete the serve. The third fundamental is the swing or the stroke. There are 3 parts to the swing. First, the wind-up. Wind-up simply means getting your racket up into the hitting position area. There are many kinds of wind-up. For example, Stan Smith has a long wind-up where he brings his racket way down. Pancho Gonzalez has a roundhouse wind-up. The important thing is to get the racket in here and make sure your elbow is up. One of the common mistakes I see is that players have a tendency of dropping their elbow when they get into the wind-up position. So make sure your elbow is up. All right. The second part of the swing is the toss. And I mean toss. I don't mean throwing the ball up in the air. You toss the ball up in the air. In order to develop a good, consistent toss, you must have a good grip on the ball. Now, the proper way to grip the ball is in your fingertips. When you put the ball up in the air, you toss the ball up in the air, you do so by holding the palm of your hand facing up towards the sky with a relatively straight arm position. This will help you develop a more consistent toss of the ball. You may ask, well, what is the right spot to toss the ball? Well, it varies from player to player. Depends on how long their arms are, what kind of frame that they have in their shoulders. So my good toss position is somewhere up here. So I set up an imaginary point up here, somewhere up there, and that's where I should try to toss the ball. I always should try to hit the ball at its peak. maybe when the ball is starting to just drop, because it is at that position, once I've made the toss and the ball starts dropping up, that the ball will somehow sit there in almost a motionless position. And that should be my goal, to try to hit the ball at that peak. The third part of the swing is the hit and the follow-through. Once you have made a good toss and you've already made your wind-up, the hit is like hammering a nail on the wall. When you hammer a nail on the wall, you simply move your wrist back. You don't move much of your arm, but you somehow just wrist it in. And you want to have that kind of wrist action, hammering the nail on the wall. Now, in the follow-through, when you complete the follow-through, the arm position should be in an X position like this, your left hand inside, your right arm across your body like this, and as you then complete your swing, you then step forward, because the weight has transferred so far forward, you have stepped forward with your back foot into this position. One good way to add power into your serve is to create a bow effect by throwing your hip out and keeping your shoulders behind the ball, behind the court, and bending your body in this way so that when you approach the ball, you're coming up on the ball, you're hitting up on the ball more, and you're adding tremendous amount of power. There are three basic types of serve. First, the flat. That's very similar to a pitcher's fastball. What you want to try to do is you want to try to meet the ball squarely behind. This ball will not spin very much. It is probably the hardest hit ball. It is the fastest moving ball. The second kind of serve is a slice serve. What you try to do there is you try to hit the outside part of the ball. You try to come around the ball. This ball will move from right to left for a right-handed server and will skid away. You move the ball away or into the player's body, depending on which side you serve to. Then the third kind of serve is the twist serve. The twist serve, you try to hit either the inside part of the ball or the top part of the ball. This serve will have a tendency of making a curve and kicking very high up on the court once it bounces on the court. If you develop a good twist serve, it can even take a reverse bounce. In other words, it'll start moving from right to left, and as it hits a court, then it moves from left to right. A good kick serve is a very effective serve, but it's also the hardest serve to hit and control. Let's go back and talk a little bit about the mechanics of the three basic serves: the flat, the slice, and the twist. As I said before, the flat, you want to try to hit the ball square behind. Now, you do not adjust your toss to the three kinds of serve. Your toss remains pretty much the same for all three serves. You try to toss the ball in that same spot. What you do change is your relationship or how you approach the ball with your body and racket towards that ball. For a flat serve, you try to meet it square, so your shoulders should be relatively close, but still you want to be rotating a little bit so you're able to hit a flat serve. For the slice serve, the approach is more to come to the outside part, so your shoulders will have a tendency of opening up just slightly more than the flat serve, so you can come around the ball. For the twist serve, your shoulders, since you're trying to hit the inside part of the ball, your shoulders will stay even further closed than on the flat serve, and you try to come up and over the ball and then finally open at the finish of the serve. How about the grips for the three kinds of serve? Should you change your grip? Well, you can if you want. If you're having trouble hitting a serve, or if you're a beginner and you're having trouble hitting a flat serve, maybe go more towards the forehand grip. This will allow you to put the face of the racket a little more square behind the ball. For a slice serve, go more towards the continental grip, more on top, the hand more on top of the racket, so you can come around the ball a little more. But an accomplished player who has a good serve should try to hit all three serves with the same grip. A good server is not somebody that has an extremely hard first serve and just lobs the ball into the court in a second serve. That's not a good serve. A good server is the person that there is very little difference between his first serve and his second serve. If you have a weak second serve, it probably is because you're afraid to miss it. You're playing it too conservative. Don't be afraid to miss your second serve. Go out and take a few chances in second serve. Try to take your time in between your first serve miss and think. Think before you hit that second serve and take a few chances. Be more aggressive. Let's talk about some of the common faults in serving and what we can do about them. Let's talk about the fault of not being able to hit the serve with any kind of power. I can't hit my serve hard enough. Well, what can I do about it? Well, again, balance is an important part. Keep your front foot planted down. Also, develop a nice rhythm, a nice tempo through the serve. Do not rush the serve. Remember, power comes from good timing, good rhythm, and good balance. It doesn't come from strength or speed. The proper sequence in the serve is wind up first, then toss, and then the hit and the follow through. Now, a common mistake I see amongst club players is that they will toss the ball first, and then they try to do the wind up and then hit through the ball. So remember, do your wind up first, then the toss, and then hit through. As you progress in the game, you will then start coordinating the first two parts, wind up and toss, into one motion, so it becomes synchronized. Hitting the serve into the net is a very common mistake. And it probably happens because you're opening up your shoulders too quickly on the shot, and you're bringing your head down and pulling away from the hitting area too soon. One thing you can do to try to prevent this from happening is to try to keep your head up through the point of contact, even after you've made contact with the ball, and don't bring your head down until after you've finished your swing. If you're hitting the serve long all the time, that can be as a result of, one, you need to improve your balance. You're not making very good contact with the ball, and you're losing control. Or it is possible that you're not putting enough spin on the ball to try to bring the ball down and make the ball dip into the court. So work on your balance, or try to put some more spin on your serve to try to control the serve. The serve is one of the few strokes that you can practice on your own. You don't need another person to go out and practice your serve. You can take a bucket of balls and go out and practice your serve. Remember that your serve is always going to be as good as your second serve, so practice second serving instead of first serving. If you want to practice placement, take some targets out there, some tennis cans, anything that may be a target to shoot at. When you go out to practice, make sure you go out and you practice with a specific goal in mind, and practice and concentrate on what you set out to practice. Now that's the serve. It's not an easy stroke, but it's the only stroke that you have full control of. You're not reacting to a ball. So learn a good serve, and you'll play better tennis.
And now for a little added bonus. What can we learn from watching a great power server, Roscoe Tanner? You know, the more you lean into the serve and still maintain control and balance, as Roscoe does, the more pace you're going to get on the ball. Notice, he has one of the shortest and fastest backswings. He also hits the ball before it peaks and gets so much body help. That's really what I'd call controlled power.